Independent, elite, executive national sales director emeritus Barbara Sunden may be small in stature, but she is a giant in Mary Kay. Her vision and tenacity allowed her to grow her Mary Kay business across 7 markets throughout 4 continents, influencing countless lives. To date, 42 independent national sales directors have debuted from her area. Barbara holds amazing records: $150,000, the highest commissions in a single month; $1.1 million, the highest commissions earned in a seminar year. And she repeated $1 million in commissions for 5 consecutive years before debuting as an emeritus in 2013. She is the highest earner in Mary Kay, with over $16 million in commissions over the course of her 40-year career, and her wisdom and lessons are timeless. I was honored to catch up with her and her husband, Rich, at their Florida home.
You remember way back when, hon, when you first started, what you were like and how you've grown?
Yeah, I do.
I can remember that also. It was great. But I remember you were very afraid to even kind of talk on the phone. And strangers, you were terrified to drive over bridges. I used to have to take you to the shows. And I'd wait in the car where you'd be in there 2 or 3 hours. Sometimes in the wintertime, it would be freezing cold. But you came through it and you grew. And I'm so proud of you, the way you just handled yourself and just evolved. And your very first speech, I'll never forget the time you went to Canada. And we were sitting on the front row at a Canadian seminar. And they never told you that you were giving a speech that year. And all of a sudden, the staff came out and grabbed Barbara Sunden, and she had to go up and give a speech. Remember that?
I remember that.
And she had to ad-lib a speech for 5 minutes on the stage that she had not even written. And she almost was having a heart attack up on the stage. But you didn't miss a trick, and you just had the audience right in the palm of your hand. You were a master, and you are a master. And I'm very, very proud of it.
I always say that you were there to carry me, and then you were there to let me fly on my own. And I thank you for that.
It's a good opportunity. It's a great opportunity. And we had a great group of people, a lot of good friends. That's the byproduct of this business. Not only the economics and the money of it, it's the friendships you develop. And we've developed friendships all around the world.
I know.
It's been great. The people are so important. That's the richness of Mary Kay opportunity.
Tell me a little bit about how you got started with Mary Kay and your Mary Kay business.
My sister was invited to a Mary Kay party. I didn't know anything about that. And she bought the basic and she was using the products. And a few weeks later, she said, I'm going to sell cosmetics. Would you be a hostess for me? I need to get a group of people together. And I said, of course, but she was so professional. It was step by step, and we all bought the basic. So, you know, she was having a really good first
party. Start, yeah.
And then I kind of followed along with her next appointment, which was at my mom's house. And there were 6 women, and they all bought the product. So it was, and you could see that, first of all, the product was great. We knew that. She asked me if I would join, and I said no. And for 2 weeks, she kept asking me if I would join. And the only reason that I didn't want to join was at that point of my life, I really wasn't looking to be committed to anything. As a hairdresser, I was going to be quitting my job because I was, you know, expecting my first child.
So what made you start?
Well, she presented it to me as, well, why not have fun with it?
It wasn't necessarily a career, wasn't something that, you know, you were going to focus on full time, but it was just something you had a lot of fun doing.
It was fun. It was fun meeting new people. So I did 2 parties a week after I started. The initial first week, we were challenged by Mary Kay to do a perfect start. That's based on parties, not on facials. And so I booked a perfect start, and the perfect start was to book 8 parties so that you're insured to hold 5 of those parties in 1 week. And then it was someone I had worked with who actually turned out to be my very first party. It was a disaster. It was like the worst. Everything went wrong that possibly could go wrong. But I did get 1 booking, and that I found out was the best thing. I did get 1 booking, but if I didn't have that perfect start in place after that very first experience, I mean, it was, you know, I carried everything in, and I set everything up, and I went through the paces, and I think I sold just a few little items, $27, and I thought, this is ridiculous. Why am I doing this? But I had to go out again the next night because I had that commitment, had those bookings. And if I didn't have those bookings, I don't think I'd be here today. I think I would have quit.
Oh, wow. And you got better as time went on?
They all bought. Almost every one of them. If I had 6 people there, 5 bought.
So was there a first goal at the very beginning, or
to quit?
To quit.
To quit in 3 months. Honestly and truly, that was it. The whole objective was set it up and do it for 3 months, and that's it. And I had a target date, and I stopped. At the end of 3 months, I canceled 8 parties that I had on my date book because I was done. I just was enjoying life. I was, raising my son. When he was about 5.5, 6 months old, my director gave me a call. I'd never met her. I knew her name. I received newsletters from her, but I didn't know her. I'd never talked to her. And she just introduced herself, and she said, we've been watching you. I'm thinking, watching me? I haven't been doing anything for a long time. And we wondered if you'd ever consider becoming a director. But her persistence, she called me again, and she called me again. Her persistence really impressed me. And I could hear the truth in what she was saying. She was passionate about this business. She told me to go to a company event, and that's when I met Mary Kay. She said that she had a vision for women and that she wanted to really enrich their lives, give them a place to grow and provide better for their families. And then she kind of leaned across the podium and she said, but I can't do it alone. I need your help. That was it. That was it. And, you just knew through her sincerity and the excitement of the people that were in the room that this was a mission. We were on a mission.
So from then on is when then you were ready to start adding people to your team and moving forward. So tell me about that.
Now I'm looking at Mary Kay in a different light. I want to advance. So most people probably would think the first focus would be build the team. My director said, when you go home, I want you to book a perfect start. Here I was again with that same perfect start. And you know what? I did. And it just started the momentum. Okay. And I had, the 5 brand new classes. And I just started to make phone calls to people that I knew, ask for referrals, just really was on the hunt because now I was supercharged with a mission and I was excited. And it was easier because people could hear the enthusiasm. They really were very receptive. I'm not going to say it was simple, but it was still work. But I was focused. I was totally focused.
How did you learn how to team build?
Actually, it was just trial and error. It really was. It was, a matter of fact, my director lived out of state. She was never local to me. She lived in about 800 miles away. Mm-hmm. And she said, I will come and work with you. And I'm so, desperate for someone to show me what to do. She said, as soon as you get 5 team members. Oh, okay. I better figure this out. But it was just really making the appointments and presenting it. And the first 10 that I talked to all said no. But just going out there, keeping my mind focused on what I wanted to do, not what was not working. Mm-hmm. And by the time she met I had a little gathering, she met my team. And she said, and now I want you to hold some meetings, weekly meetings. I had never been to a weekly meeting. And I said, I don't have to do that. She said, don't worry. And she handed me a sheet of paper with the steps. Gather the people together. And I mean, so basic. Say welcome, introduce yourself, tell a little story about your week, and then give them a challenge and let them go home. And that was my sales meeting.
So she was treating you like a leader.
She was actually encouraging me to grow into leadership, and I thank her for that. I think that was a better experience than if I had been there watching her. Mm-hmm. I was having to figure it out myself.
Do you think that was just the way that she built leaders, or did she just treat you that way because you were not local to her?
That's how she treated her local people. But she did this in many areas. She had a huge unit. But rather than, just try to talk to me on the phone or whatever, and it would never have moved me as solidly and as quickly to leadership, to understanding leadership and to becoming a director, than my actually having to do it. I think we have to treat them as leaders in the beginning, but I think the first thing is to focus on how they handle a product. How can they book? Can they prospect? The selling end of it, because that's where the confidence comes in. If you try to put a person into, focus on your team first, I think they don't feel legitimate. But if they're comfortable, booking the appointment, going to that group of ladies, sitting at the table, and then, learning how to interact with the people and close. I've always said everything you need to know as a successful leader, you learn at the skincare table. And sometimes we want to, jump past that. But that's the whole foundation of the business. I think I did everything from product up, the skincare class, then the team building.
Yeah.
And then take the new people back to the skincare class. And it just kept circling around the product. If they're doing parties, they're going to be introduced to people that they never would have met otherwise. That allows you to grow. And then by talent, select someone. Who would you like to work with? Who do you think might be interested? But then allow people to do for themselves what they can do for themselves. Give them the direction, but don't get in their way. And most definitely give them the encouragement. And I think becoming a strong point of accountability, because that's what I always had. Aretha Dinkler was my senior. And we were never in the same town together working unless she came to visit. But she was always my point of accountability. I had to be accountable to her. She was interested in my business. How did it feel? What did you learn? What's your next step? And then she'd make some suggestions. They weren't long calls, but they were impacting.
Very simple.
Yeah. I think she was interested in, who was I talking to?
Yes.
Who was I putting myself in front of? Because she always said, it's relationship business. Very seldom did I, run out of people, because I did do the booking from one party to the other. That was, Mary Kay said that's the easiest thing.
Would you call yourself a competitive person?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much competitive with, I got to beat her, as much as I think I can do that. And maybe even a little better. Even with my income, when the Applause magazines would come, I would take a black marker and, how they'd list all the people, their checks, and they'd ranking order. I would write Barbara Sunden across the top. Even if my check was like ridiculously small, in the beginning, because this was a goal for me. This wasn't just a, instant satisfaction kind of a thing, gratification. I would, Barbara Sunden, highest paid person. Well, I think back then everybody wanted the Cadillac and to be a senior director. That was very important.
Why so?
Because Aretha respected that. So it was always her focus to get us to not only personally team build, but to encourage our people to team build.
So you said you didn't do the recruiting for them.
No.
So tell me a little bit about that. How did you empower them then to build their own teams?
Well, again, to find out, who are you talking to? Who have you met? When are you going to meet with her? Just kind of asking questions to see what they're doing, what their interaction is. We didn't make it complicated. And we weren't signing people for life. I mean, we were presenting an opportunity, probably because of the way I started, more as, try this, it's fun. And then once people get in, then they can see that there is a possibility for a business to really expand and grow.
So it wasn't necessarily like, oh my gosh, you've got to start this Mary Kay business and it's going to totally change your life. Yeah, it wasn't that. No. It was more.
I think I tried that the first 10 interviews.
Yeah.
And I think I was trying to explain every bit of this business, including being a national sales director. And these people looked at me like, halt, I don't want it. I tell the story, and I'll share it right now, that, I did the 10 interviews and they all said no, because I gave them too much information. And I guess it was nonstop talking. And then one of the ladies actually walked out during the interview. Oh, we were in her kitchen. We were sitting in her house.
And she left.
And she got up. She said, I have to go. Just when you leave, pull the door shut. I want to talk about a wake-up call. I think I'm telling too much.
As your business grew, as your Mary Kay business grew, like how did your goals and your vision change?
Mary Kay always taught us, work with them where they are.
Mhm.
And so Teresa had a team leader. She didn't have a director, but that's what she had. What was her purpose for me to become a director? That's why she encouraged me to do the meetings.
Mm.
So I would go out to these different areas, always with the objective that the person I was working with was going to build her team to become a director.
So when you said that Mary Kay taught you all to, meet them where they were, what exactly did she mean by that?
Here she is. She's come in. She's excited. Maybe she wants a little extra money. Then you deal with her on that. Can she turn it around and become a top person in the company? Sure she can. But you don't have to tell her that right now. Let her grow into it. And that's what really pretty much Doretha did for me. Because when she first talked about becoming a director, she scared me.
Yeah.
But then when she backed it up to get on board with the mission, she brought it back to your team.
What strategies along the way then do you feel were the most successful for you?
So it was really knowing the numbers and then strategizing how to get action behind those numbers. It's like the perfect start. Mary Kay said, do the perfect start. Book 8 to hold 5. It's enough to give you momentum. The gold medal. Usually you say just get a gold medal, but get 3 consecutive gold medals. And all of a sudden you'll start seeing such growth and development.
So you've said it a couple of times that you would teach your people what to look for. So what exactly would you tell them?
Well, you look for leaders who they just have that energy about them. Not that I'm not, as you can tell, I'm a very basic, quiet person, but they have this like a little spark there. People who want more, people who other people like, people who show up. My goodness, if it's a meeting and they're attending the meeting, do they linger at the end of the meeting? When you call them, how is the conversation? How is the energy in their voice? Are they free to work? Here we're talking to people about advancing, but she has 4 jobs. I mean, I know that people can have a full-time job and become a DIQ and a director because I've experienced that. But maybe this isn't the time for them. So are they free to work? Do they have support? Is the person in their life, their significant other, is that person on board? If they have children, do they have childcare? And are they willing to grow as a personal growth? I can always remember Mary Kay saying to us that you're making money while you're growing. So that's a big part of it. Are people willing to change, to grow? Like I was afraid to drive on highways or over bridges. Now, how could I become, anything? I was just going to be forced to do my business in a 4-mile radius of my home. That wasn't going to work. So, I can remember driving across that bridge, the white knuckle ride across the bridge, because I wanted to become more than I was. And so I would book appointments on the other side of the bridge.
Just so you had to drive over it?
And back.
Yeah.
Terrifying. And, I didn't like people looking at me. Now, how can you become a leader if you don't like people looking at you? As a matter of fact, my sales meetings, when I did my sales meetings, they weren't entertainment. They were for a purpose, and people did come out. But there was always a self-improvement part of the sales meeting. Right. How, as a person, you could become more.
Now, was that something that Mary Kay taught you to do? Did she teach you?
She did that with us. She was either directing you to something to read, or she had the speakers come in so that you could hear their message, and just her whole being. If you get a person's mindset positive, they are willing to do what's necessary, and some of it might be failing. I mean, I failed forward to success. But then they have a willingness to keep going. Yeah. And Mary Kay was just brilliant. It was brilliant. And yet she took the time to talk to me. She never used her position to separate. She used her position to encourage. She had a tremendously strong impact on me just because she was interested. That is the true legacy of Mary Kay. That is the woman that she was. We'd go on these summits, and they'd have the agenda, and all the speakers would be nationals, but Mary Kay would be sitting on the front row taking notes. I mean, she could teach us all day. But she took herself out of the limelight, allowed us to stand up there. First of all, we were growing. We were learning how to be better at what we did. She was encouraging us, but she was respecting us as she sat there and took notes. Just a brilliant woman with a kind heart. I really wish more people, more women in the world knew of her. It's building a relationship with them of respect and of encouragement. My first team, my first people that I had on my team before I went to DIQ were the loveliest people, but they weren't the most productive. But yet my senior, in working with me to get through DIQ and onto directorship, encouragement phone calls, never criticized them. She never said, well, you got this week one, or, got to replace her. She said, okay, that's great. Now, who are you adding? So it was never criticism. She never made you wrong. So that then you kind of started to feel like, hey, I'm doing a good job, even though you could do better,
Yeah.
So, and I think that's important. Champion, being able to champion someone, and letting them trust you. I think the most important thing is that people trust you. So when you're building that relationship, it's first of trust. It's not to show how great you are or what you have. It's all about them. The focus is on them, and that they have the confidence that you know what you're doing. I believe everybody that comes in the unit has the possibility to become a leader.
Yeah. So how did you motivate people to work their business, their Mary Kay business long term?
I think if they can see that it's going to continue to enrich their lives on an ongoing basis, they'll stay with it.
Even as a beauty consultant.
Even as a beauty consultant. And, that's why that piece is so important. You kind of lay all the benefits out, but then you get them experiencing it at their level. And not so much talking about the goal of, how is it going to fit 10 years from now? More of the reward for the next 3 months, or the reward for the next 6 months, or where will I be in a year? And then those years lead, 1 year leads to 2 to 10 to whatever. People don't leave something that they feel good about and that they're making money from or they're getting benefits from. And not everybody stays in this business just for the income. I mean, a lot of people like the community.
I love that. This is the most interesting and fun for me. Is I love to hear your Mary Kay memories.
She just always, just said things to get you thinking about how you could do it better, how you could do it better. But my greatest memory, the deepest heartfelt memory, is when I became a national, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and Mary Kay heard about it. I guess I talked to somebody on staff, and she called me, and she said, I just want to make sure your mother's getting the right care, because she was very involved with cancer research. And I said, well, actually she isn't, because her doctor is not really encouraging her to have chemo. And she said, well, then I want you to get her down here to Dallas, because I want her to work with Dr. Khan, who happened to be the research doctor that she was working with. From that, my mother would go down every couple months to get her treatment in Dallas. And on one of the visits that my mother was there, who shows up to visit her? Mary Kay. And she spent the afternoon with my mother.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, that to me is like, wow, here you have this CEO of this major company. She didn't know my mother. I was a new national.
Yeah.
She just calling and saying, hey, I care about you, or can I give you a recommendation, would have been great.
Right.
But here she went, she walked her talk.
Yeah.
And that, I'm telling you, what she did for my mother on that visit was just amazing. And I mean,
that's so cool.
We all talk about how benevolent she is. Well, I experienced it, and I just, that is my dearest memory.
I love that memory. It's so cool that it wasn't about you. It was about your mom. And
right.
Mary Kay wanted to connect with her.
Yeah.
So she was like the master.
She
the
really
master
was.
at connecting.
She really was.
What do you think it would take for someone just starting their Mary Kay business today to be successful?
I always, in looking at my mentors, the thing that they all had in common was they had courage and conviction. You never heard a doubtful thing from them. They never, ever griped or complained. It was always about possibility, and it's working. So the conviction is very important. If you're believing in something, you'll do your best with it.
So the belief, and then do you feel like there's an action step to that too? Like, do you think that a perfect start is still relevant today?
Most definitely. doing the work that's necessary, not trying to recreate it. It's, as I said, it really falls all on those numbers. It falls on experience. We learn by doing. And so, yeah, I think that people can create what's been created if they're willing to do the work, if they're willing to do it the way the original plan was written by Mary Kay. Oh my goodness, if I were starting a Mary Kay today, the results, even if I did the same activity that I did then, today, oh my gosh, the rewards would be so much greater.
Okay, if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently?
I think I would not have second guessed myself so much.
Wow. So yeah, tell me more about that.
The system works. Just work the system. Don't think you're less than, you're not. So that I would have changed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I say wow because it is just so interesting to think that even with the success that you had, that there were still doubts that like you didn't have what it took, or that you were missing something.
I think that's a woman thing that we do that, and just don't compare, just emulate, just see the people that are doing it and then talk to them and do what they're doing and then just go with it.
What would you do the same?
What I did, I started out developing leaders from a small unit, and I would continue doing that. That is the name of the game in this kind of a business because it's a legacy business. And we need growth. We constantly need to be, re-energizing our business, whether you're, a consultant, re-energizing with your clients, whether you're a new director. So it's always being out there to help someone develop their business. And as a director and as a national, developing leaders, I absolutely love doing that. And just seeing how people can just, be more than they ever thought they could be and experience more than they ever thought they could experience. So I would continue doing that. My focus would be on developing leaders always. This opportunity and how we pursue the business is timeless. What worked back when I started all those years ago works today. It really does. It's really just relating to people, hearing their dreams, encouraging them to dream, and then providing a plan for them step by step.